Well, at least it looked great. Ghost in the Shell, starring Scarlett Johansson, Pilou Asbaek, and I know I probably completely butchered that one, Michael Pitt, Peter Fernando, and directed by Rupert Sanders. The film is an adaptation from the graphic novel and anime of the same name. I went into this film blind, never have read or seen the anime. The story is set in the future where robotics have become part of everyday life. Individuals augment themselves with cybernetic parts to become part machine and man. Scarlett Johansson's character Major is the first completely robotic hybrid, where the entire body is the machine with the brain of a human. Ghost in the Shell tries to look at the complexities of what makes people human, while also telling the mystery of where Major came from. The film unfortunately doesn't succeed in doing either. Let's start with the positives of the movie. The film looks absolutely stunning. Ghost in the Shell's design is nothing short of brilliant, and it's what got me to go see the movie from the trailers. The cityscape with the holograms all around the city looks fantastic. The movie has a very 80s futuristic vibe, probably because the original graphic novel came out in 1989. It looks somewhat like Blade Runner, but it has more of an empty world. The starkness of the world ends up being another issue. There are hardly any people in the world. There are a few street scenes with Major walking around with a good number of extras, but when there is an action scene on the street, or when she goes to an apartment building, it is empty. There are 0 other people on camera except those participating in the scene. This leads to the feeling of a dead world, instead of one being populated with people. It goes back to the movie being an actual shell of itself. Maybe this was the point the filmmaker was trying to make, but if so, it didn't come across well. The action in the film is another bright spot. Scarlett Johansson is no stranger to action, and she does well again here. Her performance overall is good, but her character development in the story is a problem. With the lack of character growth, the good action isn't enough to be engaged in the movie. Each piece of action is exciting, but there isn't enough to offset the lack of pacing. The character of Armiki, who I'm sure I'm saying that name wrong too, who is the lead of Section 9, seems interesting. He has a great small action piece towards the end of the film, but it doesn't mean much for the story because he hasn't been developed. He apparently is supposed to be an impressive and terrifying government agent, but there is little to nothing to establish this fact, other than he is the lead of the agency. The action he has is great, along with everyone else in the film. The issue is the action wasn't enough to make the film enjoyable overall. The goal the story Ghost in the Shell was trying to achieve seems to have missed. If the film was supposed to be just a fun science fiction action movie with an interesting protagonist, it didn't deliver because there wasn't enough action. The movie also takes itself too seriously for this to be the main purpose of the story. The film seems to want us to examine what it means to be human, but the character of Major isn't developed enough for us to care if she's human or not. Maybe it is in the anime and graphic novel, because the framework for this concept is in the movie. It just isn't executed. One thing which always bugs me in films is the fade to black and cut to 1 year later, which they do in this film after Major awakens in her new body. After the jump in time, she is suddenly an amazing operative going on missions. They could have shown some struggles and training scenes which would have given some development of how she adjusted to her new body. Instead, we are dropped into what her life is like with no context of how she got there. The story overall is strangely paced and not put together very well. Again, for maybe those who know the source material, maybe it made sense. But for a person just jumping in, it didn't. There is a scene close to the start of the film where Major takes an action and others object to it. They object, but yeah, they don't really try to stop her. And the scene ends up being strangely shot and acted. It seemed like there actually should have been more resistance to her taking the action, instead of the jilted, "Wait, no, stop, don't do that," which is found in the scene. There are many instances of this in the film, where an event should be meaningful for the story, but the lack of buildup or execution is lacking. There doesn't seem to be any heart or soul in the movie. There is a good story in this material. The framing for it is in the film. The movie just forgot to execute on the actual substance. Ghost in the Shell, while fun to look at and entertaining when the action is happening, was a letdown overall. I can't imagine fans of the original source material will be happy with this end result. And for those who aren't fans, I don't think they will be able to appreciate it either. The film is not worth seeing, but if it's on cable, you might give it a chance and try to wade through it. The movie could have been good because of the content being discussed, but in the end it missed the mark. I think I'm going to check out the original anime to see how it's executed. Comment and let me know what you thought of Ghost in the Shell if you saw it. Let me know what another good anime is because I've never actually seen one. Like, share, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching.